Hello, everybody. Welcome. Tonight, painting for PTSD is going to be a little different. It's a dedication. We lost Team Beast, myself, my wife, and a few others involved, our children. We've got some advisors. But tonight, we're honoring Chris Ratcliff. Tonight's show is called For Those We've Lost. And it's about all of those in our family, our friends, those close to us that we have lost over time. Last Thursday night, February 13th, Chris passed. They were sending him home for hospice. Had 2 strokes and a heart attack. Chris was 72 years old. Who is Chris? Chris was my police man, my police buddy.
He was your mentor, wasn't he?
He helped train me. I'm going to turn this around for a second. There we go. Get this off of here. Let me go to this one. When I ran for jailer 3 years ago, Chris was going to be my chief deputy. This is at our fundraiser, our big fundraiser that the other side came and snooped in, come and sit there and want to have some pizza and see who's there and what's going on. This is Chris. This is me, of course. And right here is retired Kentucky State Trooper Jan Wushner. Chris was one of my trainers. One of those. Hey Tim, how you doing? Thank you. Chris, the first day, in the police, I worked in a department here in Kentucky. We got hired. There's 2 of us. The other guy's named Steve. He was a Marine. I was Air Force, so we had the military back and forth. But we waited a little bit before we went to the academy. Academy was kind of long, so you didn't interact with people very much other than you had like a coordinator. And got through the academy, my first day. Thank you everybody for joining. First day on the job, I made a video about this. First day in police. Second shift, 4 o'clock, get a first call right out of roll call, interrupting us. Injury accident, head on, car versus dump truck. And I'm with my trainer, Rusty, and Chris was there. And this is back when the county was divided. You had 3 districts. You covered a lot of ground. So you learned and you did stuff all on your own real quick. You covered a lot of ground. And in that time, it's you learn everything about police and policing alone. So we get this call. Chris is in the next district. He said, I'm going with you. We go down there and we find a van that had hit a dump truck head on. Had ejected 2 people. The driver's legs, it was one of those construction vans, Ford Econoline van, sliding door. Driver's legs were both broke up underneath the dashboard. And it was bad. It was a father and his sons, and in construction. The dump truck was fully loaded. He was 80,000 plus pounds coming down a hill.
Yep.
No stopping. It was crazy. So I knew from the academy, I was taught you gather information, get stuff going. So I'm out here to get license information. I'm calling dispatch. They're logging everything for me. Chris is there. My trainer Rusty's there. They're doing the serious work. I'm just writing some stuff down, trying to sketch a little bit on my notepad. We're taught to sketch things. I knew this was bad. It was going to be a bad rag. We get to the point where it's time to go to the hospital. Ambulance has been there. Didn't air carry anybody. Should have, but it wouldn't have. That's a moot point at this time. You know, I'm talking 1993, early 93, all right about this time, early February. So we go to the hospital. I ride with Rusty. Chris go to the hospital to help. And they tell me, okay, you're going to make notification. Like, this is my first day in uniform as a policeman. And here I'm calling this woman to say her husband and all of her sons, 4 or 5 sons, were critically injured. And then ask if she had transportation to get to the hospital. Could she get there by herself safely? And I'm like, you know, that's a really odd question and thing to say to somebody and to ask. She said, yes, I've got somebody here. She comes to the hospital. So we're talking to the doctors. We're going from room to room. We're figuring this out. The son that was ejected, they had one of those nail guns. And you got to remember, this is back in the very beginning, the first, nail gun, generation 1. And this guy had like 175, 180 nails, from 2-inch nails from that nail gun in his torso. The doctor takes me in. He's like, look, you got to see this. We don't expect him to live. He's on breathing machine, basically life support. Mom's coming, family. We're going to give her a chance to come and talk and make some decisions. And here I am looking at this boy. I was about 25 years old. He's a little older than me. Like, is he going to live? Hello, Auntie. Auntie, thanks for joining. I was in the process of sending the link and my fingers got off. So then I go to see the dad, who's both of his legs, and this turned out to be like one of many times I've seen people in those kind of wrecks where their legs are broke up in the dashboard. And due to that severe trauma, husband passed away. The son with the nails passed away. So we had 2 that passed away. The other were serious injuries, not the ICU type. They survived. And incredible is not the best word for it, but unbelievable and huge ordeal to go through with this. Chris was there. Chris was there with me. Rusty got serious about the stuff and talking with the mom. He was carrying the report. And Chris took me to the side and he says, look, this is what's been so far. This is what we're going to do now. Chris taught me to police with compassion. Chris taught me to police. I grew up, my dad was a preacher. So I grew up in the church, grew up as a Christian, had a Christian police career. But Chris taught me a different side, that always remember who people are and they're struggling. You get to a car wreck, yes, sometimes you're going to find somebody drunk. They're doing some illegal things. They're in a bad situation. But just remember families. Remember how to deal with them, with the parents, the children of those. And that stuck with me. It was, Chris was a Christian man. He's in heaven now. And when I saw him last Wednesday night, I got to say goodbye. He was laying there in the hospital in peace. Last Tuesday, they unplugged a feeding machine. He wasn't eating at all. Had so much infection around his heart after the heart attack and the strokes. And he was just, I talked to him and I told him some police stories, tried to get him riled up. He barely moved, barely responded to me. It was sad, but we had our days. That was really the first day that I met and with him. And he was there in the hospital telling me, the doctors are going to do this, the nurses are going to do that. This is the process. The chaplain's coming down. Chaplain's going to talk to her. Chaplain's going to talk to the sons that are alive. And it's one of those things that you got to coordinate a mother and a father and all the sons. I don't remember, 3, 4, 5 sons, that all their condition and the fact she's going to lose more than one and have big decisions. And it was an event. And it was kind of, it's been 3 years. May will be 3 years, right, from Nathaniel.
Yeah.
And Lacey, 50, 70 here, she lost her son. May will be 3 years. And then we were there with him when he passed. For those we've lost, It's tragic to lose somebody, to lose family, to lose close. You know, it's tragic for us. Little one here's 3 years old. Yeah, he likes to be on camera. But it's hard. It's hard for pets as well. You know, he's up here. I'll mention that. But Chris was my best friend in police. He was older. And I'm 57. He's 72. So he's 15 years ahead of me in career. He only worked a few years and then he retired. But we had a great time. I know this was in early '93. In '94, a year later, you know, after he got to know me and he decided that he liked me, because, you know, police are real cliquey, you know, even nowadays, but back then, and, you know, we weren't going to bars after work and going having a drink and getting through the day. We weren't dealing with anything with alcohol like that. You know, dudes may go home and have a drink, but I spent a year with Chris, a couple other guys, Charlie, Bob, and we just got to be close. You know, when you have 3 people and a supervisor working, you don't have much backup. You're really on your own. Well, about a year later, it was about the end of May, early June. That had to be in June. He says to me, we were out, you know, third shift at the time, you know, having breakfast 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, bragging about who we arrested and how many people we arrested. It's like a competition. But just to throw this disclaimer in here, the more people we arrested, the safer the streets were. When people ended up in parking lots and they were drunk with drugs and crazy, to protect them and other people, protect them from themselves, a night in jail, it really did serve a lot of purpose. So we go to meet one night and he's like, man, you've been awfully smiley lately. You must have met a girl. And I was like, well, yeah, I did. I met a girl. And he's like, I want to meet her. I want to meet her. So third shift, you know, it was the next day or 2 days, whatever. It worked out. She got up, she came and met, and we were like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, let's meet a little bit earlier. Let's not wait till 4. She came out and met us. And come to sit down, brave, this young lady who we had our 30th anniversary last year. She come out and this year, last week, I'm sorry, got a bad headache. And he come out and asked some questions. Started with, I was like, Chris, don't be asking all these questions. Don't act like a father and drill her like this. Don't be mean or hard on her. Just meet her. Just see her personality. So we had an hour break. Hour dinner break. She meets and talks and we're eating, and he looked at me and he says, I approve. And then he told me later, I was like, what's this all about? And he said, you're a good guy. I just didn't want you to go, you know, finding some bad bunny or some bad person or anything, you know. And that's a word that it follows people in uniform, jobs in uniform. You want the little pliers to snip around there?
No.
Okay, muscles, just rip them. Tell me if they're right here.
I got you.
So he approved. I went home, told her, and 30 years later, we're sitting here together.
With 3 kids and 4 grandbabies.
3 kids and 4 grandkids, yeah. So I'm glad
a goddaughter.
And a goddaughter, yes. We are the godparents to Miss Lacey's granddaughter.
Yeah, my little heaven.
So these podcasts are kind of important to us. It gives us a chance to share. And those joining in and just popping on here, Chris was my police best friend. He taught me, trained me, worked with me. I got a few more funny stories to tell about him. But he was, you know, he was it. He was old school, old timer police when I came in, and really taught me and really helped me. But, you know, feel free to share something. Talk about a loss. Talk about a tragic loss, something that's a memory for you. You know, this painting for PTSD, it was kind of my idea, but I pitched the idea to her and she agreed, and because she's told me that I've had some issues I need to deal with. Some of them lead to anger and some anger management issues. And we're just trying to help people. We're just here. We're here. We're trying to help people. Chris was one of the ones that taught me the importance of when, you have problems on Friday, Saturday night, at the little small local bar, people getting out of hand, things getting out of this. He taught me how to run around behind the bar and spray a can of mace in the air conditioner, and that clears the bar. And you arrest everybody you need to arrest and nobody hides. He taught me how when you go through to do a bar check, you send somebody straight to the bathroom because that's where dudes go back and they hide or flush their drugs. They don't want to get caught. Or they pull the top of the tank and drop them down in there in the bag, And he taught me how to do that. He taught me how to handle things. Taught me how to handle some suicides on the railroad tracks. He also taught me, about directing traffic, and he did have an incident. Somebody drove by down in Triple Crown, which was back then we called it the rich subdivision, the $500,000 houses back in 94, 95, when we didn't have many. Mm. And some lady drove by and almost hit him, ignored his signal to stop, and he whacked the back of her car with the flashlight. Got suspended for a day.
I remember you telling me
he volunteered and paid for the damage for the little dent. So I learned not to hit people's cars with a flashlight. Chris was a good man. But being this age, besides my wife and direct family, how many friends when you're 50 years old, 40 years old, how many friends have you had that have been around for more than this many years or this many on two hands? I've known Chris since 1992. We worked 3 jobs together. After he retired, I retired, another job, we moved away, came back, got a job Cincinnati Airport driving shuttle buses together, drive people around. And he'd give me so much grief because he was a supervisor and I was doing pull-ups on the handrail on top that you hang on to when I was waiting my turn and the bus was empty. Push-ups, jumping jacks, pull-ups. And I know I pulled the bar down and broke it off about 5 or 6 different buses. I had a screwdriver in my lunchbox so I could try and screw the screws back in if they came out, or I'd go by and find some screws somewhere. Always construction out there. Stop. Hey, buddy, you got any screws that might fit? It's about like this big in this kind of hole. But Chris was always teasing me. He's like, make sure you don't do any videos with that shirt on, with the SP shirt on. So I'd always take off my polo work shirt, have my t-shirt on, and I was making self-defense and exercise videos in my shuttle bus waiting my turn. That was our funny thing. While we were there, I got the idea, along with my partner here, the Mrs. Beast, that, with COVID hit, I went and got a job at Kenton County Jail and worked 6 days and had a homeless inmate put Kool-Aid powder in his mouth and spit it in another officer's face. Well, we got involved in use of force, and he tried to bite me and spit in my face. I hit him a couple times in the neck. We were on the ground. I took him to the ground. I couldn't get an open hand, so I just used mine and just kind of soft punch. He was handcuffed. We got into a big week-long ordeal about it. And then they're like, okay, you can't punch people when they're handcuffed. Well, yeah, he was spitting in our face and trying to spit blood at me. Mm-hmm. It was continued force, handcuffs or not. So I told him, I made him fire me. We had this was a Monday. It happened. 5 days they deliberated. I went back on a Friday at 2:00. And I made him fire me. I wouldn't quit. And they asked me to change my statement, which was corrupt and illegal. That's forgery because I already had 2 written statements. I wasn't changing my statement. I told him that. But also, before we went in, I had to put my cell phone and show him and make that I wasn't recording anything and lay it down where I couldn't reach it. He was afraid I was going to record a conversation. Isn't that pretty bad?
That was bad. So
the current jailer and his captain was in there, who I didn't like. He can only do 22 push-ups, and I was doing 175 in 2 minutes, and he was doing 22, so he didn't like me. I was
I don't
going
think that he was just not like you. I think he was just jealous.
jealous. Well, I was going to take over the tax squad anyhow. So I told him, I said, well, instead of suing, you're going to see me soon. Instead of suing me, I'm going to be back in a different way. And that different way, Chris, I trained him about prison. I trained him about corrections because after police, I worked in a max security prison down in Georgia, Hayes State Prison. You'll see from my videos. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, my channel, and follow what's going on with this. But I filed. I ran for jailer. Chris was going to be my chief deputy. That's what the pictures were I showed you, why we were dressed up in campaign shirts and stuff in the beginning of this. He was going to be my chief deputy. We almost won the primary, but we didn't.
Yeah, but it was closer than close.
Very, very close, and I scared everybody in Kenton County, Kentucky.
No, everybody was rooting for you except
they're rooting for me, except for the
people that liked.
Except for the political people, the people with money, and the old people money, money.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go, buddy. You gotta sit over here. So after that, Chris and I got a job. We worked at Spectrum together, calling people and selling internet. That was our third job together. So since 1992, that's 30 plus years that Chris and I knew each other and were friends. 3 jobs. How many of you can say that? Couldn't find apple pie today or yesterday. Looked around the grocery and everything. But Chris and I, apple pie was our code thing. When I worked at the airport in a shuttle, and I'd take a lunch sometimes to go in there with him, and we'd have a meeting, a campaign meeting, our planning meeting once a week, and then closer to the campaign twice a week. But every time we have a meeting, we would take turns buying. She'd get to go to Sam's and get this big case of apple pies, and we'd have apple pie, and that was our strategy food. That became our thing, and she always made sure I had apple pies. And go to work at Spectrum, always had apple pies. I'd take them. We'd sit and have apple pie together. We miss him. It was hard to sit and see him last week in the way that he was, which was exactly the way that Nathaniel was, the way that my wife's Uncle Andy was. We went to the hospital and saw him. We saw them when they unplugged. We saw them when they were there and on the morphine and the medication, the pain stuff, just to make them not feel anything. Kind of help ease them. Nurses coming by, doctor come and check. Are you guys need anything? Are you okay? You need a chaplain. We did that. We did that together, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Chris always talked about Jesus, though. He had faith. He loved his wife, Paula. Chris had been through some hard things in his life. Years and years ago as a policeman, his son was involved in drugs and issues and problems, theft, all the stuff that goes with it. And he found his son that had committed suicide by hanging in a barn. Mm-hmm. And that was tragic. And I know he carried that burden. He carried that struggle. He put a face on. We put faces on. I got a face on right now. She's got a face on. She got a nerve disease and extreme pain all the time. She puts that face on. But you know what? It's easier to put a face on when you have Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But I know people, they do things and they put a face on. People are struggling with mental illness. They always say they're fine. And, it was freezing cold. She can't wear shoes. Bunch of surgeries, can't wear socks and shoes. And we were out. Just slipped on a hay dude. I said, how are you doing? How's your feet? Fine. Are you okay? Are you warm enough? I'm fine. I said, no, you don't say fine and okay, didn't I?
Yeah.
Don't say fine and okay to me. The real temperature outside was like single digits. And when you're in chronic pain like this, she got complex regional pain. When you suffer from pain or from injuries and arthritis, This cold really hurts. I'm going through some stuff right now. I'm going to keep the podcast a little bit shorter tonight than normal. I got a doctor with appointment in the morning with Mayfield Brain and Spine. My head, and I've had a bad day, haven't I?
Yeah.
Kind of hard walking and being up, being on my feet. This dizziness and just feeling drained and feeling out of it. I've done 2 CT myelogram scans, so they've done radiation twice. Neither one of them could show completely if my spinal cord is leaking fluid. I can't do another one for a while because it's too much radiation. So yeah, apparently it's not good to have all this radiation in your body, because I'm really feeling these effects for 2 weeks now, since February 7th. We've had a couple others. During my police career, she would come and meet for dinner. Other guys sometimes come over. We got 2 other guys, Mike and Danny, that have been close, that she knows, that we lost. Mike was a Marine, and I didn't get time. My head just kind of slipping out of focus this week. His brother, also a Marine, actually did a big march, did a walk across Kentucky and Tennessee or something last year to raise awareness. This 22 veterans a day committing suicide. Mike was a veteran, and we're police together, and he retired one department, went to another, was over at a policeman's house and went out, sat in his cruiser to get ready to go to shift, sat in the cruiser over in Jason's driveway and committed suicide by handgun. Didn't call us, didn't tell us, never told us anything. When I retired from police, he kind of stopped talking. He only talked to the active police. So we don't know details. We don't know anything that happened. We don't know about that. He was married second time and, had kids from both, and kind of Norman in the police family.
Just sad.
It was just,
Sad.
it was really sad. And by the way, this podcast, we named it Painting for PTSD. The painting is a way to put down guns and knives and weapons, tools of the trade of law enforcement, of the military, but PTSD is not just for military. It's not just war. My wife has not been in the military. She's rode with me. I don't think she's seen some things. We went to a DOA call, somebody that was dead on arrival, elderly person. And we got there, and the woman was real hysterical, and she saw my wife and just took to her, just started talking to her. I went upstairs, and her husband was gone. He has passed. In the bedroom, they were older, 70s or so. Mm-hmm. But
we talked to her for a long time.
You talked to her for a while, yeah. But she doesn't have like images of bad death and destruction from police, things like I've seen. But it still bothers her because my wife is an angel. She's a loving, totally loving, caring person. And
thank you.
You're welcome. She does suffer from PTSD, from stuff. There are things that happen in her childhood, things that bother her, things, and have something from family, somebody call a name, somebody call you stupid all the time. And then
that was my dad.
That was her dad, her real dad, not her stepdad. But here's the other element, here's another part, and she kind of really falls into this, is PTSD happens when you're a child. It happens when you're 12. It happens like when your sister's baby daddy molests you and you're 12 years old, which happened in our family, our 2 girls. And we've been through a lot of stuff with that. PTSD happens, with family, being yelled at, just being screamed at, degraded, fat shaming. That causes people problems.
I hate that.
And it's unfortunate, but family tends to put each other down. Friends put each other down. That's school, the bullying. I'm so happy, and they missed out in some things, but our middle and our youngest child both homeschooled all through high school. And the bullying and the way they're treated and what goes on and what the schools cover up is unbelievable. And that causes me PTSD. There's so much violence and weaponry and drugs, and then it's covered up by the school systems here in Kentucky. I can't stand it. And that's kind of why one of the reasons why I went to, after losing that primary, I got hired and I worked for a governor candidate for a guy running for governor. So I could be a little bit closer and like, hey, maybe I can say something. Yeah, let me see this right here. My wife just showed me something.
I just found it.
Just found this, and I'm gonna turn the screen around here so you can see this. I saw something earlier about this. It says, "I have no child. Tearful mom. The spate of suicide has hit Boone County schools. Four kids have committed suicide in Boone County schools since January 1. And her mom was on the news. I believe it was Channel 19 News this morning, WXIX.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I meant to tell you about that. But, and this is something that maybe we get in and talk to the school systems a little bit. You know, being retired police officer, and I've been through a lot of trainings for mental health and dealing with this and drug addiction stuff. How to handle people as a policeman when you go to their house. You have to know how to handle this or it gets violent, people get hurt and get killed fast. It does. You know, I walked in on a Sunday morning and with my sergeant, who was one of the best friends of my brother, who's 2 years older. And just Sunday morning quiet. But you know, Sunday mornings, that's Saturday night's drunk hangover leftovers. And we were the early. So instead of 7, we had a supervisor and 2 officers would come in at 6. And that helps the night shift to go home earlier, you know, not get tied up. But, you know, we're there, so it's 6 o'clock. You know, it wasn't even 6. I was always early. So it was about 5:45. Get in my car, I drive 5 minutes, stop at the gas station, get me a fountain. We got a free fountain drink there. Get me a fountain drink to get started. Put out physical domestic, and we were both like 2 minutes away. We get down there, walk in the door, and in less than 30 seconds, what we saw was furniture, couch knocked over, furniture, both of them red, blood. And within 30 seconds, we were both in a fight with a man and a woman. And Smoke ended up picking the guy up. Guy did something, he picked him up, and bam, they went right to the coffee table, broke the coffee table in the glass. Woman's trying to hit me, I'm hitting her. Yeah, I remember as I hit her a few times, and she was on the floor, and Smoke slammed the dude, and he was on the floor, and we got them both handcuffed. We're like, man, it's Sunday morning, not even 6 o'clock. And then we yelled at him, like, how do you interrupt our breakfast like this? What the hell's your people's problem? But, you know, these people, they didn't give us a chance to go in and talk. They were fighting. They'd been drinking, all night drinking, fighting. But, you know, they're going to have some PTSD issues later. They're never going to forget that day because that dude broke the coffee table with his back.
He got some arthritis.
He probably does. But, you know, these kids in school, this stuff is just everywhere. Car wrecks. My wife was injured in a car wreck. And that began a series of things. And then from that, kind of babying her foot, but doing some treadmill work with me when I was doing strongman, and then end up at the doctor, get some shots, get them into a malpractice situation because the doctors mistreated her just for insurance money and ego. You know, that does cause PTSD with her. There's triggers with her, definitely with her. You know, for instance, if she tells me something and her voice is in a different tone of voice, I don't get within her space 5-6 feet close to her. I don't do that. Don't get into that space. That's an issue from before. Don't ever raise my hand. I put my hand close to her face either. The hand never gets in between her eyeballs and my eyeballs.
Nope.
That's a good way for me to see a fist. No, she don't hit me like that, but it does. It triggers.
No.
It triggers her, and domestic violence is a big trigger for PTSD. You know, we watched The Masked Singer, And somebody on this season right now, you know, this is February 20th, 2025. I forget what season it is. Season 13? Yeah, it's Lucky 13 season or whatever they call it. But one of the contestants that's singing is talking about how she came out from something, bad relationship. You know, and that's great, talk about it and everything. But how many people came out of a bad relationship that are not on TV on The Masked Singer and are looking for a trophy or a reward or national attention? You know, that happens to a lot of people that don't end up on TV. And a lot of people that do need support, they don't have a direction to go. They don't have anybody to go. You know, I had a conversation with somebody this morning that's issues with an adult daughter that said bad things and bad names. And I says, look, every time somebody calls you a name or does something bad, I want you to get on your cell phone, turn the camera on, flip it around and look at yourself. And tell yourself that you're beautiful.
That's right.
And tell yourself that God loves you. And you do have Jesus in your heart. Don't let that name hurt you. Don't let that name hurt you. And, you know, somebody important to us. And to do that, okay, so somebody's a celebrity and they're going to have all the celebrity places and people and all these psychologists to the stars are going to jump all over this to make money. Yeah. What about all the people that can't afford to, you know, the shrink to the stars? What about all those people that need help, need somebody to listen and talk to? That's the purpose of this podcast. People can get on and text. They can put messages on here. You know, on different podcasts that we've been on and been talking, we've had people tell us that they've survived a home invasion. One guy, and I talked to him for about an hour after a podcast. New York City, somebody broke into home, shot and killed both of his parents right in front of him. And he actually had to shoot the intruders. He shot and killed them to live. And you talk about some PTSD. He's been on some of these podcasts. He'll just get on a listen, and he's not really telling his story, but he said he's got some serious nightmares and stuff going on. So let people know. Let people know that they're going through some struggles. Tell them about this podcast every Thursday night, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. People get on, you know. You don't have to use your real name. People are on here, use all kind of different names, you know. Lacey 57. That's not a real name. You'll never know who her real name is. I know who she is, though. She's a family member. But you people get on and they say stuff. I've had people tell me they were human trafficked, they were kidnapped. Probably 3 or 4 people at least that's been kidnapped. And I've got a video I made on how to handle death threats. If you're a civilian, if you're a correction officer, and if you're a police officer. Because they're all different. Police officers have a lot more avenues, and it's easier for them to get people charged. Correction officers is different, a lot less. Because when you work in there, they say, oh, everybody calls your names, you're expected. You know, I got threatened between 5 and 10 people were going to kill me 5 to 10 times a day. 3 people tried to stab me. I'm still here. Didn't get hurt. They got hurt. But it's different inside, and it's different when you're a civilian. It's different when it's family. It's different when you're just going to the grocery store, and then all of a sudden somebody over a parking space and they want to kill you and they're waving a gun. That's traumatic to people too. So we want to help people. I'm going to get something here to show you. It's not just all about talking. Took a blank canvas and actually looked at the picture. It's not a paint by number, no numbers. It did have tiny little black lines to kind of outline. But this is my first picture ever painted, and I did this myself. I'm proud of that. First picture I ever painted. I've got 2 more over here that are like this that I'm working on. But I tell you what, this podcast has been a good relief for me. I've had 2 special guests. Connor was a lieutenant, the CERT commander. Got a call, officer need assistance with something in a dorm. And Zeus, don't chew on my piece of paper, you goofy. A dog on the floor. See, here's the paper. I looked at this picture and I painted it out. I painted on the canvas. It's one of these things. I got it here at Michael's, $5. Dog's chewing on. I got to keep it. That's my souvenir. That's my souvenir, bud. My head's killing me here. I just forgot what I was talking about.
About your painting. You got it at Michael's.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I got it. Michael's got 2 more. Oh, Connor. Connor was a lieutenant. He went down. This was episode 8. Connor's a great young man. Went down to help another officer. Inmates attacked him, stabbed him, collapsed his lung, blood everywhere. He was fighting for his life. Got out the door with the other officer, tried to get to medical and collapsed. In that hospital, he decided he was resigning. Then I had the next guest. I'm sorry, and I forgot his name last week. I had the guest, or 2 weeks ago. He, a veteran, he was in Iraq. He saw some really bad things. He came back. Scott Judd's his name. We worked at the Hayes prison together. He's at different location. He got into the alcohol and the drugs. He got into the scene. I've got several correction friends that have stress of taking them to alcohol and drugs. And it's unfortunate, and they're coming out of it. They're doing the best they can. Some of them are doing great. A couple of them are really struggling. One of them really, really struggled with pain medicine. It's real. I mean, it's right there. It's in your family. It's your friends. It's next door. It's the people around us. Guy across the street got an injury surgery, prescription medication, got addicted to Oxy. It ran out. Pretty soon he found himself buying pills in his sandwich bag from a guy in a parking lot behind a grocery store. And one day he's like, what am I doing? I'm buying pills in a sandwich bag or from a guy's pocket. He's like, that's it. I got to deal with this. And he dealt with it. He dealt with it, and he went on. He went on in life without that. So it really, really is close. You know, I'm very proud of her. I got to say this. Going through this nerve disease in which she has and the medication they gave her. She hates taking medication. She's never abused pills. She's never taken them just because she has them. It's not candy. They're there for a reason. But she deals with a whole lot before she has to use them for a reason. So we're going to talk. I always ask people, you know, if you got ideas or suggestions for topics dealing with PTSD, with stress. I'm not a counselor, certified. I'm not an addiction counselor. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a college degree in any of that. But I've talked some people off the bridge. I've talked some people to put the gun down. I've talked people to put the needle down and a handful of pills down and not take it. I've helped people to not die in my career. And I'm proud of that. And it's a really difficult situation to be in, somebody else's life, and you're watching them. I've had people die from bad stuff in my hands, in my arms, blood on my arms and my hands, and look in their eye and watch them go. So to be able to help somebody, it's a whole lot better. But any suggestions, post in the comments. Let us know. Every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We also, if you follow the channel and watch, got a playlist. We did some commentary on the Special Forces Celebrity World's Toughest Test this year. In the last 5 weeks, we covered it. We're going to go back to season 1 and season 2. Got a lot of good comments. People really enjoyed that. A lot of views, and a lot saying, hey, we want you to do season 1 and 2. We love what you're saying. I'm a veteran. I've been in the military, so you know, 2 SWAT teams. I've been a power lifter and strongman, so I know what the dedication, discipline for crazy is to get through this. Self-defense instructor, fighting my whole life. So we do have some interesting. When we're going to go back, we get to do season 1 and 2. We get to talk about JoJo Siwa, who I just completely hated in season 2. I'll just tell you up front. Season 1 to Chrisley, and she's always on TikTok and stuff, whining, complaining about her parents.
She's getting out.
And the parents, they denied that.
No, it's right here.
Well, they're crying. Well, if she's going to get supervised release should be readjusted, prosecutors say. they let her out. She had to go down and go to a court hearing, and then I think there's a funeral. She's not getting out. It was a special occasion.
Oh.
But they set up fake stuff, and they took money from people. They took over $110 million they embezzled from people. They got 10 years in federal minimum court, minimum security. They deserve to be in there. So every time she posts something, and yes, I did bad. When she said, my wife thought it was funny. When she said stuff, well, I wonder if my mom and dad will still love each other. And I'm being, former corrections supervisor. I made the comment. I said, oh, no, he's somebody's prison wife now. He doesn't need her. And I made a comment about how he was somebody's wife and somebody's bitch 3 or 4 times.
Honey.
I lost count, but I'm just being real, folks. But so we do talk about these celebrity special force. We'll have a good time. We'll have a good time. They did have some good. And we've developed a pattern after 3 years to this celebrity special force. And yes, this does help the PTSD. I do have to have movies every now and then. I've watched a lot of Hallmark this year. I'm really toning down. But I do say, honey, I need a movie with guns, don't I?
Yes, you do.
I do occasionally got to have something. So to watch the special forces, like, I've trained for crazy, and I just got to see it. I enjoy it. So you'll see that. A bunch of other great videos, instructional, self-defense, exercise, motivational things on the channel. You'll enjoy that too.
And people can also, text, you just bring up other ideas or...
Yeah, some ideas, some suggestions. I do get suggestions sometimes about making videos to certain things. And, It's odd. This guy asked me to make a video talk about how strip search inmates. So, and then he made a comment. Well, he just want me to talk nasty and dirty and talk about another man's body parts. But I made a video, how did you do a professional strip search? And I made the video, and it was watched and it was enjoyed by law enforcement across the country. Tremendous viewing of this and comments. But I kind of made the video and explained it like I was reading from a textbook. It wasn't for his entertainment. It was about maintaining your composure and being a professional in uniform with that badge on. Do the right thing. Mm-hmm. So I didn't say and do what he wanted, to disappoint him, but I also helped because I've seen people strip search inmates in an unprofessional way. And they say things and they kind of get nasty. Don't be nasty. You're strip searching another person that's naked. Yeah, people have contraband. They hide it, stuff like that. That's normal. But don't put people down and degrade them. Don't body shame them. Don't talk about their body. Just do the strip search thing. So I talked about that correctly. But, that video about how to handle death threats, that was a request. Several requests. I did a video... Somebody asked me to talk about how do you deal with inmates with body piercings, inmates with long fingernails. I made a video and talked about that because there are ways to do that. So put suggestions in the comments, send them our way. Don't forget every 8 o'clock, every Thursday night, Eastern Standard Time. We're going to wrap this up here, kind of a short one, like I said. Tomorrow morning, I got an early doctor and then a funeral to go to for Chris. Like I said, Chris, and you'll see in there honoring Chris Ratcliff, one of the original Boone County Police. County Mounties we were called back then. Wore the big Smokey the Bear hat. Very few counties left in Kentucky that wear that. Sheriff's Department wears that hat with a big brim. But we were the police, so we called ourselves the County Mounties. And I got to be a County Mountie for a little while before we transitioned and merged with Sheriff's Department. Mm-hmm. So the funeral, it's going to be hard. It's really kind of just been on my mind all week. I've been a little bit snippy this week. I've been a lot sad this week. A lot of up and down emotion about this. At least it's good that I have emotion. At least it's good that it does bother me, that I am sad. There's a time and a period in life. I'm just reading the message. All right. Thank you there, Lacey 5070. Gotta go here. My phone and tablet here is about to die too. She had me out and the battery dying today on me. She ran my battery down. I'll blame her.
Okay.
But we're just getting ready for this tomorrow, and I know he's in heaven. So at the same time of there's loss, he's very excited and he's happy and he's pain free now. He's been through several surgeries and some problems. So thanks for being here, everybody. See you next week.
God bless.
God bless.